Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. So I haven't made like a voiceover video in a long time, and I recently moved to this program called Krita. I don't know, but the name's in the title. So today I'm gonna be doing a little jeans tutorial. So yeah, as you can see in the background right now, I'm starting with an outline. My outlines are usually the same, just that I don't really save them, so every time I make jeans I have to redo it, if that makes sense. Sorry if I sound like breathless or like hoarse, because I'm kind of sick right now. I don't know if you guys can tell, but yeah, this outline literally took me an hour-ish to make because this is my first time on Krita. Yeah, so if you guys want to know what brushes I use, they will all be in the description below, because I don't really want to say it right now because it's a bit hard to follow. Krita is a bit more advanced compared to websites like paint.net or Medibang, so I wouldn't recommend this for people who are just starting out designing. This is also my first design on Krita, so bear with me if I keep like undoing stuff. And honestly, Krita is hard to understand, but once you get the hang of it, I'm sure that you'll be fine. So yes, this is just me doing the outline. I usually outline using a black color brush, and because Krita has the clipping tool, similar to Medibang, I'm able to just change the color. If I'm not wrong, you can also change like the hue or saturation of it, but I'm not really sure how. So in my opinion, the easiest way is to do clipping. I'm gonna say this first because I don't really do this until later on in the video, but if you're having difficulty clicking, if you're on a MacBook like me, then you click on the layer that you want using 2 fingers. You press group and then you put quick group clipping. So this will enable you to add clipping layers on top of it and have a little like group. And for the and to clip it, you just gotta click like the little alpha sign. There are 3 buttons like right next to your layer. Click the one that kind of looks like an A. It's in the middle. And that's basically how you do clipping. And yeah, so here my outline literally takes a long time, so you can either skip this part or you can watch and follow along if you are a bit unclear on how you do it. So personally, I like to make the belt hooks and the details on a separate layer first. So as you can see, I can make adjustments without actually adjusting the layer of the jeans, if that makes sense. Sorry, I'm really bad at explaining things, and I was like really freaking lazy to do a text overlay shit thing. Yeah. And also, just a heads up, enlarge your color wheel thingy, because it's actually really small, but you can just drag it and make it bigger. I find that this helps with getting more accurate colors. And the thing that I like about Krita is not only can you like drag the darkness and the color that you want, you can also adjust the hue. Yeah, so for patterns, you just have to click the pattern button. It's the second one next to the brush icon. Yeah, and there are tons of patterns that you can use. And to fill a layer, you basically, if you're a MacBook, you drag your mouse to the top and a drop down button should happen, and you press edit, and then you click fill layer with pattern. I'm not sure if that's the exact words, but something around that lines. It isn't really obvious here, I noticed, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to text me on like Discord or Twitter. My DMs are open to everybody. As long as you're for Discord, I think you have to be in a server with me, but if you're not, then you can just add me. I accept everyone. So yeah, that's basically it. I'm just adding more patterns. I prefer having more textured jeans, if that makes sense, because I feel like it looks very stagnant without texture. Yeah, like I don't know how to say it really, but that's basically it. Krita I find that the shading on Krita it's cute, but it's a little less helpful than that of Medibang. Like if I had to rate Paint.net, Medibang, and Krita, Krita will probably be like second and Paint.net at the bottom. But yeah. So right now I'm just changing the color of the outline, trying to find a hue that matches. I wouldn't recommend doing this now. I don't know why I did it. But usually I would do this at the end so that your outline kind of matches with your jeans, if that makes sense, because once you shade, the color of your actual jeans can go lighter, maybe sometimes darker, and the outline, if it doesn't blend in, it just doesn't look very cohesive, if that makes sense. Yeah, so now I'm switching a brush. Again, all brushes will be in the description. Basically, I'm using a much darker color, very similar to black, but not exactly, because I find that shading with black gives a very like dirty hue, if that makes sense. So yeah, so I'm just doing a little bit of drop shading first and indicating where the two legs separate, if that makes sense. And then I use Gaussian blur, which is similar to Medibang. You just go to filter and then click blurs and then Gaussian blur. And then I usually like to bring my opacity down, and for this one I did not put it on overlay because I don't find that you need that unless you use black to shade. Now I'm just kind of like darkening the belt area, things like that, doing a bit more of box shading, just so you give the jeans a little bit of depth before you actually like go in depth with the shading. I find that shading with the Bezier curve tool is really helpful because it's a bit hard to draw lines like accurately in Krita, in my opinion. Like it's easier on Medibang because you have the stabilizer tool. I'm not sure if Krita has it, but I haven't really used it yet. So yeah, again, just accentuating the details with shadows, lowering the opacity, making sure that everything isn't too harsh but also not too light. Now I'm creating like a little triangles, like small triangles in the front area of the legs, and then later on I'll do it on the back as well. This kind of gives your jeans shape, you know, like when you wear jeans in real life you have a natural shape. And yeah, so that's exactly what I'm doing here. I just draw like pointy little triangles in the middle to kind of show like the knee area, and then where it flares out to the ankle, if that makes sense. And I'm adding a bit of highlights here just so it doesn't look too harsh and it doesn't look very, what do you call that, unrealistic, because I prefer slightly more realistic jeans, if that makes sense. I didn't use much textures here, but you guys are welcome to use even more if you want to. Honestly, it doesn't really matter if you like less textured jeans or more textured jeans. All jeans are welcome. So here I'm just trying to find the perfect shade, the perfect overlay, opacity, etc., etc. And I accentuated the darkness a bit more with the smudge tool because I found that this was very helpful. I used the Q-tip one instead of the other one because I find that the Q-tip one is more helpful. Then I started drawing a bit of shadows, a bit of triangles here and there to show or to indicate folds in the pants. You guys can just copy what I'm doing, or you could do it whatever way you want. This step isn't really necessary, but I find that it gives like a bit more depth to your jeans, if that makes sense. So yeah, I also just lowered the opacity. I didn't put it on overlay because again, you don't really need that unless you're shading with black. Yeah, and you can also right now I'm adding like tiny wrinkles, you know, to show flow of fabric. And I really recommend using a reference. I don't know if you guys could tell, but I am using a reference, not heavily referenced though, just to kind of indicate where the wrinkles should be. For this one I used a black because I wanted it to stand out a bit more. compare it to the flow of the materials. Like, it's not exactly a black, but it's a close black. And I just lowered the opacity again. Make sure to blur it out like a shit ton, because if you don't, then it looks kind of out of place, and it doesn't really look natural because it doesn't blend properly. And even if you lower the opacity, it will not blend entirely unless you use the smudge tool. I kind of effed up the sides on this jeans. Not really sure why though, but just copy what I'm doing with the rest of the legs, and you should be fine. Personally, I don't like adding back pockets to my jeans, but you can add them, honestly, if you want to. It doesn't really matter. Again, I recommend using references. Now I'm adding some highlights. Highlights should follow also depending on your light source. So again, reference, very, very important. Try not to put the shadows, the highlights directly above the shadows, because then it just hides it, and it would make your shadows less, obvious. And when you're shading light jeans, you want to make sure that the shadows are more prominent, and if you're shading darker jeans, then you would want to make sure that the highlights are more prominent, because that way it would stand out more. My jeans are pretty light, so I didn't really have to do much highlighting, just a little bit. The opacity very, very low as well, because I didn't want it to be very obvious, so much so that it would stop blending in. Yeah, so right now I'm kind of just trying to find a good shade for my outline, because I don't know, I get really annoyed when it doesn't blend properly. Yeah, but if you got the hang of this already, then you're chill, I guess. Yeah, so the jeans are pretty much done. The rest of this is kind of like optional, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, so I'm adding a bit more texturing to the jeans, because I find that, again, it's really stagnant just without the texturing. So this is basically just drawing lines to kind of show the jeans effect, because if you've worn jeans, then you would know that there are like fabric lines going downwards. So yeah, I actually got this hack from Or, I think that's their YouTube channel's name. Yeah, their channel is really, really helpful. Honestly, I watched it a while ago, and this is probably this is probably the most important thing that I took away from the video, like adding those lines. It's really cute. If this tutorial wasn't like good enough for you guys, I will plug their YouTube video. Also, I watch ASMR Donors jean tutorial when I was first starting Krita, which is like 2 hours before I made this video. Yeah, so their tutorial was really helpful because they show us how exactly we can use the tools in Krita, and I really needed that because it was really confusing. Yeah, I can make a more in-depth tutorial if you want, but I feel like ASMR Donors tutorial already covers all of that. So yeah, I'm just adding my watermark here so people don't steal, because that unfortunately happens a lot. And throughout the rest of this video, I'm just changing the color of the outline so that it fits better. So that's basically it. I hope this video was helpful. If you found that it was too fast, you are more than welcome to slow it down, rewatch it as many times as you want. I promise you it is okay for your first design to not look good.